All right, everybody. Well, first off, happy Friday. Thank you so much for being a part of today's webinar. We're incredibly excited about the topic we're going to be covering and getting in depth on something I think every real estate agent should be implementing in their business, whether you hire us to do it, whether you do it yourself. We're going to give away the entire playbook today. But as people are pouring in, do me a favor in the chat. Just say hello. Let me know where you're calling in from. I want to make sure you can hear us and you can see us. I'll be sharing my screen here in a moment. And as we're waiting for people to pour in, because we have a huge audience on today's call, Ryan. It's funny. I think one of the things that I've noticed about the market and what has been so clear about some of the trends we've seen is that the last 2 years, if you had a pulse and you worked hard, you could be successful in real estate. And I know that might sound harsh, but the reality is the market was pushing so much demand that agents who are willing to sort of roll up their sleeves, put in the work, make the calls, get out there and market themselves, they're the ones who had some of the best years in their entire career. But now as the market has shifted and has evolved, you can't just work hard anymore. You got to be working smart. And so what we're going to be covering today is an advanced strategy designed to help you work smarter, to help you capture more attention for your local customers and help you convert that into more listings for your business. Before we dive into any of that though, my name is Jimmy Mackin, CEO of Curaytor. I'm going to be the host of today's session. We're going to be talking about Google My Business and why Google My Business is an essential tool in your marketing toolbox. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now and kick things off with you guys. And everyone should be able to see my screen. Let me pull it up. Okay, there we go. So we're going to be giving you a masterclass. I got my guy Ryan with me today, and he is someone who I have always looked at as the foremost expert in SEO, someone who has helped our customers grow their local brands, and someone who has a much more popular following on Twitter than I do. So I'm incredibly jealous. Ryan, could you kick things off for us and just give people a little sense of who you are and what you've done in your career before we dive into today's topic?
Yeah, of course. Well, Jimmy, it's always flattering to know that Twitter is still a popular channel for you, as it is for me.
Yes.
So I'm Ryan. I've been working in SEO now for close to 10 years now. Mm-hmm. I've worked with some fantastic brands over the last few years. I've kind of wore all of the hats. So I've been in-house, agency, and now I've been running a consultancy for the last couple of years. As you can see on the screen, I've worked with some really huge brands, which has allowed me to kind of understand SEO inside and out from all perspective and all angles.
Yeah.
And the brand that's missing on there, which is probably the one I'm most excited about, is Curaytor. And I'm happy to be here today talking to everybody and hopefully give you some value that you can take away and put into your business immediately. So really excited about this one.
Well, Ryan, I want you to commentate on one thing, because I think real estate agents for a long time have bought an SEO products, and they have been promised everything under the sun. Rank number one for this keyword, rank number one for this search phrase, right? Get thousands of visitors to your website for free, convert those visitors into customers. And so I want you to maybe speak for a moment and commentate about the fundamentals of SEO that have historically been true, but also are going to be super relevant going into the future. Because I think there's frankly, a lot of snake oil in this space. And I think a lot of people should, in my opinion, have a lot of resistance to the idea that SEO can solve all your problems.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think fundamentally, the way that the market is behaving is content will forever be king. But it's about the experience you're providing to your customers and how well you position your brand in that market. I think seeing SEO as a silver bullet to all of your marketing problems is definitely the wrong way to approach it.
Yeah,
it should be seen as a kind of, and this is a phrase that kind of is thrown around, but it's so strong, is a moat around your business. So whether that's building brand awareness through PR or building out, hugely informational and valuable pieces of content that can sit on your site.
Yeah.
I think brands need to recognize that kind of pull marketing, content marketing is going to be so powerful from now until the next 5 to 10 years, and being able to absorb market share organically is going to be a huge benefit to your business.
Yeah, and there's a great word that you're using there, which is moat. And I have a question for everyone who's tuning in right now. This is a trivia question. We're gonna do a lot of these throughout today's call. What is the number one hotel brand or hospitality brand in the world? Just drop in the chat. Don't Google it. What is the number one hospitality / hotel / accommodation brand in the world? People are dropping in Marriott, Hilton, right? Okay. 92% of Airbnb's traffic comes through unpaid or direct sources. Airbnb is a company that has built a brand, and that brand has built a moat around their business. So shout out to Jason Bolts in the chat there. It is Airbnb. If you're going to invest in any hospitality company, you're going to invest in Airbnb, because Airbnb is a brand that people associate with, finding unique and beautiful places to stay that are convenient, that they can afford, or they're doing it as a luxury. Like it is the brand that consumers seek out. You don't seek out Marriott. You don't seek out Hilton. You might uncover a Marriott or a Hilton when you're on TripAdvisor or Travelocity or, one of these other search sites. You're like, oh, this is maybe a good hotel. But Airbnb has built a moat around their business because they built a brand. And SEO, in my opinion, is one of the best ways to build your brand recognition. A company here in New England actually did this really early on, Ryan. It's a company called by the name of Bean Group, and they deserve a lot of credit. They went all in on SEO back in 2007, 8, and they started to actually dominate the search results in and around our local area. And as a result, it actually catapulted their success, if you ask me. So I think you rightly point out that having a moat around the business is essential. Great brands do it. Airbnb, NerdWallet, I hate to use the Z word, but Zillow, they have built a brand and people seek them out. So we want to help you do the exact same thing at a local level. So Ryan, let's cover what we're going to be talking about today to give people some more context of what we're going to be covering.
Yeah, so I think we're going to kind of do the entire journey from, you completely brand new to Google My Business or Google Business Profiles, help you understand why the basics still matter. And like 80 to 90% of the time, they get results just by getting them right. And then I'm going to show you some of the kind of more advanced strategies that you can deploy for optimizations on your Google My Business or your Google Business Profile. And then I'm going to show you it in real life scenario. So something that I've done over here in the UK and also with a couple of Curaytor clients in the last couple of months.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so we're going to cover the basics. We're going to get into the advanced optimization techniques, and then we're going to give some real life case studies. So what do you want people to do right now, Ryan, just to set the stage for everybody?
I think this is really interesting. So I would like you all to Google real estate agent right now on your phones, not on your desktop, and take a look and pop it in the chat what number you appear. And this is excluding any ads.
Yep. So I'm doing this live right now with us. So you're typing in Safari or Chrome. Right? If you're using an Android, I'm sorry, probably Chrome, right? You're typing in real estate agent. And so we're actually scrolling past the paid advertising, and we're going to the map results. Okay.
Yep.
And the question is, where do you rank? When you search real estate agent, where do you rank? Just drop in the chat right now. Janeth, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, Jeff. Number 1, Aaron, number 1. Okay, cool. Yep. Number 4. We got a couple number 4s. I'm gonna actually ask the number 1s to send me a screenshot for proof here. Jeremy, number 2. And so this is great. So we got people who have a good position and they want to maintain that position, right? Because it's not something that once you become number 1, you stay in that number 1 position. And we got people who are following in number 5, number 7, number 10. Yep. Okay, cool. So what we're going to talk about right now is let's go over the basics. Let's give them the blocking and tackling, and then we'll get in some of the advanced techniques next.
Yeah. So before we kind of get into that, I think it's really, really important to know that the kind of scale and size of Google is huge. So 95% of all mobile searches are captured by Google. So search engines like Bing, Safari, unfortunately for iPhone users, it just doesn't cut the mustard in comparison to Google. 84% of those searches are discovery searches. So that means somebody who isn't familiar with their particular brand and they're trying to find a brand to interact with. That's nearly, that's over 80% of that traffic is looking for someone. And 46% of all searches ever, and there's billions per day, are looking for local information. So they're looking to interact with a local business, go and visit that business, call that business, email that business, whatever it is. So the size of that opportunity is huge.
And so, just one quick question there. When you say 46% of all local searches or all people are looking for local information, you mean that consumers are intentionally seeking out someone that's in their proximity, someone who's actually like local to them, just to be clear.
Exactly that. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's go over the 101. I know you want to kind of get into the basic blocking and tackling. And by the way, if you have a Google My Business profile, chances are you're doing some of this stuff, but there are little nuances I want you to pay attention to as we go through this.
Yeah, for sure. I think getting the basics right and understanding how Google and the Google My Business platform actually works puts you in a good position to kind of either take this into your own hands and get the basics started, or give you the knowledge that if you do work with somebody outside of your business, that they're doing a good job for you. Yeah,
makes sense. All right, so let's break down what you have on the slide here, which is some of the core building blocks to establishing your Google My Business profile.
Yeah, and this is taken directly from Google's local guidelines, so how they determine and rank businesses in local areas. So there are 3 core concepts, and they are relevance, distance, and prominence. And Google will give you and it's kind of shown here right now, they'll give you their interpretation of what those things mean. But they don't show you or tell you how you can achieve, better relevance, or how do you understand what prominence means and how do you take that into your business. So what I'd like to do is hopefully break this down a little bit deeper and give you some tactics that you can deploy to understand how you can manipulate or work these 3 core concepts.
Okay, so relevance, distance, prominence. Let's start off with relevance. Break this down for us.
So relevance in a very simplified fashion means how relevant your business is to the query that the searcher has put into Google. So if I am a steakhouse and somebody has put in best vegan food near me, probably not the right query to be serving. And Google can do this in a number of ways. And I've kind of outlined them in these little boxes here, but I'll go a little bit deeper. So localized content. So basically, if you're an estate agent, you would imagine that in your local area, you are popular, you understand the language, you understand the businesses within that area. More importantly, you understand the market. So you've got your localized content to help Google understand, hey, these guys offer these services in this area. On-site SEO is how you structure your website. You can imagine if somebody comes to your website, how can they figure out how to interact with you and figure out what your services are straight away? And then you've got business citations, and these are really simple to achieve. And what they basically mean is, where is your business information listed? Are they in directories? Are they on social media websites? The more of those you have, the more dots Google has to connect where your business is and what it does.
Yeah. Okay. So we're trying to signal in a lot of ways to Google that the search that consumers are performing on their mobile devices or on desktop, we are a resource that is actually going to match that search query. And the idea behind this is Google is best served, or Google's main goal is to organize the world's information. And the better they can understand how relevant the search result is to the destination they're going to drive, the better experience it is for the consumer. So therefore, they reward brands who focus and prioritize relevance through local content, on-site SEO, and business citation. I want to just double click on this for 1 second here before we move on to the next bucket here, Ryan, which is relevance. One of the things that I think is so fundamentally important about building a listing first business is how you actually carve up the market. We did an analysis in San Diego to understand how the top 10% of real estate agents were successful. And the one signal that we saw that stood out among all the other data points we looked at is how concentrated these listing agents were in particular areas, meaning that they were able to build up their local brand recognition in a particular area, and they were able to convert that brand recognition into deals, into listings. And so if you're on the call right now and you're an agent who sells in multiple markets across multiple areas, and you haven't made the decision to sort of focus your energy and effort in on a local area, you're never going to experience the brand lift that you get from actually building up a local name recognition. So Google is saying you need to decide what area you really want to own, because then we can help be able to serve the right results to the right customers. So Ryan, let's keep building on this. You mentioned distance is one of the key factors. Go a bit deeper on this for us.
Yeah, so I mean, distance is a really, really simple one, but it's something that is can be overlooked. Is that if, for example, like you said, if you own and dominate a particular area, if somebody searches from within a mile of you, the chances are they will interact with you because you own that area, you own that space. And Google uses those signals to understand, hey, this agent is only a mile away or a mile and a half away. And I can tell that because they have their business address consistently listed on their website, their social profiles, and again, any citations, which is just business directories. But the thing or the place where people fall over is if they've moved offices or they've moved address or they've rebranded and haven't updated that information in all of these places. So without that consistency and being able to update and keep track of this information, Google doesn't know where you are, and Google will not serve a result if they cannot confidently say, yep, this agent is here, they're 2 miles away, you can go visit them right now. You're on mute, Jimmy.
I said relevance, which is making sure that your site is optimized, reflecting the keywords that people use in your area. Distance, basically making sure that your address and where you reference your business is up to date. I know this is, by the way, the one-on-one stuff we wanted to cover. It sounds basic, but I think people make this mistake all of the time, right? I mean, like they move locations 3 times over the course of 7 years, and you go in their business, you see like half the time they're referencing their old address. If it's confusing to Google, they're just not going to serve that. Go a little bit deeper on NAP consistency. Like, what do you mean by that?
So NAP stands for name, address, phone number. And these are the 3 data points that Google uses to validate you as a legitimate business. So when you say NAP consistency, that just means you are consistent with your brand name, the address, that's where your office is located, and the phone number.
Got it. Okay. So social profiles, business citations, of course, your website, on Zillow, on Realtor.com, on any within the MLS when your listings are being distributed, right? Like, do you have the right information there to ensure that Google says, yes, we confidently believe this person's here? Okay. Number 3 is prominence. Let's unpack this for the group.
Yeah, so prominence is probably the trickiest to get right, and it's probably where most of the work will sit for local SEO and Google business profiles in general. So prominence is in short-term popularity. So, if you existed in an area for 15, 20 years, you have recurring business, you have returning customers, you've appeared in local newspapers or local articles, you would say that business is quite popular, quite prominent in the area. And the way that Google determines this, again, it's a very simple framework, but it does take work to get it right. So links and PR, and that just means, can you get a link from another business or a relevant business in your area that says, hey, this agent is great for these services, I think you should go check them out. The same applies for citations, which is, again, the business directory, which is allowing Google to go to a popular business directory site, find out where you are, and can establish the fact that you are a kind of a popular business in that area. And then there are 2 other really key factors, which, if you were to apply that in kind of like a brick and mortar store, makes a lot of sense. So reviews. If, for example, your business hasn't received a review in the last 3 to 4 months, or you've been receiving reviews, but you haven't interacted with your customer. You haven't responded. You haven't said thank you. Whether it's a positive or a negative review, there has to be activity. And then the final thing is local traffic. So how many people in your area are visiting that website? Is it one a day compared to your competitors who are getting 50 a day? And local traffic is where most of the leads come from, where the ranking changes come from, and that helps influence everything else.
So they look at local traffic, and I'm going to just ask you this because I think it's important everyone understands this. They look at local traffic as a means to determine, are you a trusted brand? So in the event that a lot of people are visiting your website who happen to live in that local area, that's signaling to Google that this is a reputable, prominent brand that we can trust.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if you imagine that a brand new store opened in town and it's been there for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and not a single person has visited, chances are that people aren't going to come back and pass that on. Oh, this store is great. It's whatever. So if you imagine your website or your Google business profile as a real life store, the more traffic you get to that store, the more people are going to recognize, oh, I'm going to go and check this out. Or, you know, it might attract news or press to come and visit and check it out. So as long as you view a Google My Business profile as a property, as an asset, you shouldn't go too far wrong.
It's actually really interesting when you give the comparison to think about it as a store, because I have my second trivia question, which is, there is a famous bakery shop in the north end of Boston, Massachusetts, where people from all across the country go when they come visit it, and they have cannolis there. Do you know what that bakery shop is? Just drop in the chat for me. Anyone who's been to Boston or knows someone in Boston, and you can see in the chat right now, right? Now that's a bigger debate, Chris, whether it's one of those two, right? I love it. Everyone is saying Mike's Pastry. And so they have what you would call the equivalent of offline prominence. And what Ryan's really talking about here is the fact that when you are trying to build your brand locally, you have to give people a reason to visit your website. And you said at the beginning of today's call, which is the importance of content creation as a means to be able to establish the fact that you are a reputable, prominent brand. And so I think there's a Zen takeaway here that I want everyone to sort of think deeply about, which is, what is the key area within your sort of geographic market that you really want to own? And if I go to your blog, I go to your social media profiles, I go to the latest reel you post on Instagram, are you talking about that market? Because yes, if you are, it's going to not only have impact for the consumer, but it's also going to have impact for Google when they're trying to determine whether or not you're a reputable, prominent brand that they can focus on here. So let's keep going deep here, Ryan. Let's talk about the fundamentals here, the basics. This is something that people should do, need to do, and absolutely probably screwed up at one point here. So give us a breakdown here.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key things about GMB or Google Business Profile is basically getting started. You know, you can't benefit from local SEO if you haven't made the basic steps to make sure that you can. And one thing that people sometimes might get into is they might set up a Google Business Profile. They'll get halfway through, they walk away from it, they don't finish claiming that profile. And what that actually allows you to do is, or allows other people to do, is claim that business or verify that business on your behalf. So if you're in a very competitive area and you've managed to, you kind of get 70% of the way through and walk away from it, you're potentially giving up leads, and you're potentially allowing your competitors to kind of ride on your brand awareness for their own good. So I have some really important stats in the next slide. If I can flick through to that one, Jimmy, that one there. So I thought this was incredible to see, is that over half of businesses that have that exist in an area, they haven't claimed their business Google My Business profile. So that's half of the people or businesses in that area that are allowing their competitors to take their business from them.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And then the next one is that if you don't claim these profiles, is that you're missing out on a huge amount of traffic. So over 60% of people that are looking through Google to find contact information, they're looking for a number, they're looking for an email, they're looking for an address. And I don't know about you, but if I feel like I can't trust a brand by looking at it, then I will go and find somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. These are signals that you are a trustworthy brand. When you have a profile, you have reviews, it's set up properly, the number is accurate, they call, you pick up the phone. Like these are just the basic kind of blocking and tackling. Okay. So let's keep building on this. I know we kind of covered some of I'm going to go back a few slides here. Claiming your profile. This is absolutely essential. Verifying your profile. And then finally setting up your profile. So we're going to talk about the optimization piece here in a second, Ryan. In terms of claiming your profile, I want you to maybe just go a bit deeper on that. You said that most people actually don't claim it, even though they set it up. What does that process look like? Why are most people screwing that piece up?
So it might just be the case of people get busy, and considering the market, it's definitely a potential. So what Google allows you to do is go in, fill in your business information, your address, et cetera, et cetera. But what they do is they send you out a postcard to say, actually, this business address is legitimate, this brand is legitimate, and we've verified that location. That takes about 4 days to get to you, depending on if they have a backlog or how busy they are. So if you leave your your GMB in that state, it means that people can come in and claim it on your behalf. It's not that difficult to do. So you're leaving yourself open to actually potentially, some serious harm to your brand. So if you are in the chat right now and you've kind of half done it and you haven't verified your GMB, I highly recommend you do that before the weekend closes out.
Love it. Okay. So let's get into some more of the advanced topics. We sort of set the stage for Google My Business as one of the best ways to attract listings. We found that, over 50% of consumers are searching for local experts. We also know that in the case of most businesses, again, the majority now, they actually don't claim their profile. This is the basics. This is the blocking and tackling. We have a lot of people on today's call who probably have done these things. Let's get into the optimization, because right now, if you're number one, we want to keep you in that position and we want to expand the different areas in which you show up number one. And if you're not number one, we want to help you get in that top 3 spot and then also expand how many places you show up when it comes to it. You need to optimize to do that. So let's start with the first optimization strategy here, Ryan, which is your business name.
Yep. And, this is something which it's Google shows you in plain sight exactly what they want to rank you. If you took a look at your phone earlier and you see real estate agents or real estate agent near me, and you're not in the top 1 to 3 or even the top 1 to 5, you can take a look at your competitors and they have already done the hard work for you. They've eliminated your risk because they have tried and tested business name variations, and Google has rewarded them for doing that. So the biggest piece of advice I can give for business names is follow the already existing structure for success. And in 95% of occasions, it's either your brand plus your kind of core keyword, which might be real estate or real estate team or realtors. Or in some really competitive industries, it might be the brand versus your location and keyword. So it might be John's Real Estate Agents Toronto. And the good thing about this is that you're doing 2 things. One, you're telling Google, or you're associating your brand with a keyword and a location. And 2, Google is a robot. It's an algorithm. You're giving it the keywords that it needs to understand what you actually do.
So I think maybe the advice I would have here is, if you are in a market where you cover a larger geographic area, you probably would want to avoid including location because it might be too broad as an example. But if you're, let's say I'm a North End real estate agent, I sell listings in the North End of Boston, then I would probably want to include that if that's my primary area. But what you're really saying is, when you search for real estate agent or realtor in your area, what you're saying is Google is kind of already telling you in your local area what they're prioritizing. So you either should go brand name plus keyword, or brand plus location plus keyword? And the signal there is what is Google already prioritizing? Is that accurate?
Exactly. Yep.
All right. So business categories, business name, we got that down. Business categories.
Yep. Again, so what we're trying to do here is if we kind of think back to the three core pillars of what Google is looking for, is relevancy, distance, and prominence. So the business name is helping with relevancy. The business categories is doing the same thing. So your business category, I would say for most people on this call, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, would probably be estate agent or real estate agent as the kind of primary category. But there are ways that you can establish a deeper level of relevancy, because Google allows you to set secondary categories on your profile. And there's a very easy and quick way for you to do this without having to overthink it or do too much hard work, because again, your competitors have done it for you and Google is rewarding them for doing that. So there's a free Chrome extension. So for people that use Chrome in the chat, hopefully that's most of you. There's an extension called GMB Everywhere. And what that will do is it will show you obviously the top 1 to 10, 120 positions that you need to look at. And it will help you see, it will show all of the existing categories that your competitors have set. So if you imagine positions 1 to 3, they have estate agent as their first, they might have property consultant, they might have estate agents, so plural, team, whatever it might be. What they've done is establish relevancy, and you can just copy that and deploy it on your own GMB. And I see some things pop up in the chat. I'm so used to saying GMB that I'm just going to continue to say GMB, because GBP is a lot harder to say quickly.
Yes. And just for clarity there, Google is rebranding in
Yes.
typical Google fashion from Google My Business to Google Business Profile.
Yeah.
It is effectively the exact same thing. It's a bunch of marketers getting in a room, having too much time on their hand and making things hard for us. That's effectively what's happening. So the extension you mentioned is called GMB Everywhere. In theory, it might update to GP, Google Business Profile, GBP Everywhere, but it effectively analyzes the categories that businesses are associating with their profiles. And thus you can do sort of a reverse analysis or sort of like a reverse engineering to basically say, oh, the top 5 placements all use these following categories. Therefore, I will use those categories. Is that accurate?
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Awesome. All right. So business, I'm going to keep going back because we're going quickly here. Business name, brand, keyword. Brand plus location plus keyword. Business category, making sure you're using the GMB Everywhere extension, identifying the categories that the top brands are using in your local area, they're ranking, and then from there, adding those to your GMB/GBP profile. All right, you guys good? All right, let's keep going. Business description.
Yeah. So this is, again, I see this so many times when I'm auditing GMB profiles, is that people don't leverage this section enough. If you were to look at this as a piece of content that existed on your website, Google will essentially treat this in the same fashion. So you have 750 characters or 750 words to build relevancy, to describe to Google and a potential client what you do. Again, we're leveraging the fact that if there are people who rank above you, they've done all the hard work. And once you know what to look for, you can replicate that for your own neighborhood, your own area that you want to compete in. So, for example, in this kind of picture on the right here, the screenshot, you can take a look and see if there are kind of recurring or repeating themes. So downtown San Diego is important to mention. The fact that there are in particular streets or types of houses that you sell in these areas. This is your opportunity to say to Google, hey, we operate in this area. We sell this type of property. We have been in business for X amount of years, and we've sold X amount of millions of dollars in property in the last 5 years. So if you haven't completed this, I highly recommend that you do. And when you are, pay attention to where your competitors are using keywords around like the location and also the service-based keywords. So is it real estate agent? Is it real estate team? Is it realtor? Once you identify those patterns, make sure you follow it as closely as you can, but try and sell as much as you can in the same copy.
Yeah, I think this webinar should be rebranded as "Make It Easy for Google," because that's effectively what we're trying to do here. Whether it's the business name, whether it's the categories, whether it's the description, make it easy for Google to understand who you are, what you do, where you sell, who you serve. If you can do that, you increase the likelihood of them being able to say, "Hey, we're going to help this individual rank." And again, I want to say, top one, top two, top three. The reason this work is so absolutely essential is because you get the come list me calls. Hey, I was looking for a realtor. I didn't know anybody. I was looking for a realtor to sell my house, and you showed up number one. Like, we know the data supports this. That's well over 80% of consumers contact how many agents? Just in the chat right now, how many, over 80% of consumers contact how many? One, two, or three agents? Just drop in the chat. Yeah. You guys all know the answer. It's one. Like, that's it. It's one. And so getting this stuff right increases your likelihood of ranking, and increasing your likelihood of ranking results in the, hey, I found you on Google. I'd like for you to come by and talk about potentially selling my property. And that's why these little details really matter. Okay. So let's go a little bit deeper. We talked about business name, talked about tags, talked about description. Let's talk about products and services, because this is something that I don't think anybody does well, because I've checked a lot of profiles out, Ryan, and give some context around what this actually is.
Yeah, so this is, again, it's an opportunity to do two things. You're building relevance around your service and your brand for what you actually offer, and you're giving your potential clients the opportunity to engage with you and drive traffic to your website. So if you imagine you sell, 4 types of properties in, say, the north end of Boston. You want to take those types of properties and you want to list them on your GMB, as we sell condos, we sell family homes, we sell terraces, whatever it might be. And then you describe what they are, because essentially what you're doing is, again, Jimmy, you nailed it. You're making Google's life much easier, because Google likes to kind of present itself as this all-seeing eye and really complicated and smart. The fact of the matter is, it's a very lazy robot, and you can just tell it exactly what you want and it will listen to it. So you've got home types, you've got areas, and within each section on your GMB profile. So if you're looking at your GMB right now, you can go to products and services, and you'll see add service or add product. And then it will give you the opportunity to kind of detail what that product or service is. And you can see here on the right hand side, I've kind of highlighted the downtown San Diego condos for sale. So they have described exactly what the product is, exactly what the service is, and then you'll see get offer. That get offer button takes people to your website, where you have your call to action, you have everything about your brand, you have your phone number. Everything that leads to potentially converting a lead is driven from this point onwards.
I love this. Now, what I would do if I was in your position right now, I think there's a couple things. The first is, we have people on today's call who have multiple seller services that are not reflected on their website. They can do a traditional resale. They can do a fix it up and improve it and then sell it for more money, kind of like a Compass Concierge. They can offer cash. They can do a cash offer right then, like an iBuyer program. They can offer something like that. They can do a sort of a sell and then a rent back lease program. And so the problem is that everyone on today's call has many kind of products, in this case, like solutions for sellers, but it's not on your website. It's not on your Google business profile, products and services. And so the consumer just thinks you're just like every other agent. So the very first thing I would do before you even add to the products and services of your GMB profile is to go to your website and build out custom pages for each one of the services that you offer. And if you have those services and you can highlight success stories around those services, provide all the details on how it works, even better. And then come back to your Google business profile and then add in the links to those individual services. And to Ryan's point, if you can localize that, even better. And that would be something that would be fantastic, because Google can not only track what you put in products and services, the lazy robot, as Ryan calls it, is going to click on the link and crawl that page to uncover what is that page about. Okay, so products and services, that's probably number fourth or fifth tip here. Let's keep going down that list, because someone mentioned in the chat photos and videos. And I've heard a lot of experts talk about photos and videos with the Google My Business profile. I want you to share your insight in terms of why photos and videos are essential to helping you optimize your GMB profile.
Yeah, I think especially in this market, being a visual brand and being able to substantiate the kind of properties that you have is so critical for not just Google, but to help you sell more listings. And if people do end up engaging with your GMB, they'll see that you're posting regular content. They'll see the type of properties that you're selling or kind of marketing for, and it should help you in the long run. There are a couple of really cool hacks that you can do with photos and videos. First one being, and I think I see it pop up in the chat a couple of times, is that you're able to geotag your images. And what that means is if you've gone out and reviewed a property or taken photos of a property on your iPhone, it will record that location information. So it will actually say, this photo was taken in this location at this time. And if you imagine, Google can see that, so it's able to understand and build relevancy around that particular area. And it will also help them understand how far away from your office that property was. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you want people to see that your profile is active and it doesn't just come from you. So this is where people go wrong. They think if I post 50 photos and I'm the owner of the business, Google sees that as a good thing. But what is actually more powerful is that the photo should be uploaded by either a client that is leaving you a review, or from people that have visited, or like staff members that are in the area, or they have visited the office, and they are uploading the photos to your GMB on your behalf, because that is saying it's a popularity signal. People are engaging, people are posting photos of the business, people are taking photos at the property. That is hugely more powerful than you just posting photos of everything you're trying to sell. So 2 really good hacks that you can deploy straight away.
Would you advise, we think about, if I think one of the best techniques around attracting sellers is to highlight the fact and really amplify the fact when you sell a home. It's the concept is turning a listing into more listings. And so there are many different ways in which marketers can do this and teams can do this within real estate. They can do circle prospecting. They can do success stories on social media. They can be able to, mail people on that street to let them know about what they got and offer a free home valuation. A whole bunch of things to kind of go along with it. Are you advocating for, when you are selling a home, effectively to upload photos of that home on Google? Like, is that too extreme? Or are you thinking about it a little bit differently than that?
I think there is, I would definitely take everything with a pinch of salt. So you got to kind of follow the strategy that is working successfully in the area. Because the thing that works well is incremental changes, providing that it's needed. So for example, you don't have to go crazy deep on photos and videos if, for example, your competitors aren't taking it as serious as you. Obviously, you can have a leg up if you do that. And these little minor changes or these minor things that you do might help you influence the rankings. But the core thing that we're trying to achieve here is not leaving anything out.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I think it just depends on the competitiveness. This is going to sound dumb, but when we've been running Facebook ads for over 10 years, we've generated millions and millions of leads through Facebook. And now, even the last few years, we expanded to Google, millions of leads through Google. And it was always funny for us when we would, let's say, advertise in Southern California, how competitive it was from a strategy perspective, versus like we started running ads in Madison, Wisconsin. It was as if we were the only company running ads, and the cost per lead was so much lower, and the competition was so much, was so few compared to some of these other areas. And so what your Zen takeaway here is the degree in which you have to optimize your profile depends on the competitive nature within your local area. If you're in an area where everyone is hyper competitive, there are more agents than there are people, such as Toronto, right? Like you've got to figure out ways to be creative. If you're in an area where it isn't that competitive and you can kind of get by with just doing a few of these tactics, then you probably can still achieve and hold that #1 ranking. All right. So we're going to talk about reviews equal leads. I want you to go deeper on how reviews play a large part in basically influencing Google's decision to rank you higher, as well as decision for people to actually call you and hire you.
Yeah. So there's two trains of thought here. And the first one is just very kind of consumer-driven behavior. I am more likely, and I would assume that everybody else in this chat is more likely to engage with a business that has positive reviews.
Yeah.
I would say that I am more likely to buy from a brand if I've been recommended that brand, or I can see other people have recently bought or purchased from the brand. It influences me either one way or the other. So positive reviews, hugely influential for buying, and equally so if people have a ton of negative reviews that haven't been responded to or just completely ignored or avoided, it can sway people away from that brand, even if that review isn't necessarily justified. If people see a negative review and there's been no response to that or no kind of justification from that brand, it can push them towards a competitor. So that's the first way to think about it. The more that you generate reviews, the more, again, we're feeding back to that popularity signal, that prominence. The more reviews you have, the more frequently you get them, the more Google is going to view you as a popular and legitimate business in your area. But I want to take that a little bit deeper and not just give you the kind of, get reviews, which I'm sure you've all heard before. There's one way you can take even more advantage or take advantage of reviews in a different way for local rankings is if you've built relationships with your clients over the period of the sale or the transaction, and you've asked them to give you a review. There are ways that you can, so for example, if you've sold a house in the north end of Boston, like you said earlier, Jimmy, is ask them to include the area in which that transaction was completed. So in their review, had a fantastic time with Jimmy when he sold our house in X location. They are the best real estate team in Boston, highly recommend them. And what you've done there is not just get a positive review, is that you've also put keywords into that review that Google will then read. So it associates, again, relevancy and distance just from a popular review from a client.
Yeah, I think it's really smart to think about this as one kind of continuous process, which is whether it's the profile, the name, the description, whether it's the keywords they're using within the reviews. Again, these are all signals that can help you rank higher for this particular brand asset. Yeah. I have a pro tip here on reviews. I had an awesome client reach out to me recently who is trying to build up her reviews, and she was struggling. She delivers great service, but people weren't writing reviews. And there are common mistakes I see people make when they're requesting reviews. The first is I see people request reviews in multiple locations. Hey, I hope you really enjoyed everything. I'm so happy to help you. Could you write a review for me on Zillow, on Facebook, on Google? Okay, that lift for the consumer is too much. The second is we're delivering these requests via email versus via text message, right? So now, when you email somebody, it's kind of easier for them to ignore you, less likely they're going to actually click through and fill it out. And then of course, if they actually do get around to it, they may get distracted on something else. Texting them is going to guarantee they're going to at least open the email or open the text message and be much more likely to respond. So number one, don't request 6 places to review you. Focus on one. We're obviously advocating for Google Business Profile, not Voldemort, as someone said earlier, Zillow. Number 2 is use text message versus email. The third thing, and this is a pro tip, if you're really struggling, I would actually have my assistant or my admin as part of a post-close process pick up the phone and say, hey, Ryan, we're just calling, basically conduct a survey. Every time we work with a client, we want to make sure that everything went smoothly. And I just have a few questions for you. I'd ask, how is your experience? What would you recommend for people who are looking to hire us? I would gather all that information and I would then effectively write the review for them. and then send it to them saying, hey, based on the call we just had, here are some of the kind of key things that you just said. If you feel comfortable with this and it reflects your belief, here's a link where you can basically copy and paste and share this. And you just did the work for them. Now, of course, there's probably rules and laws around what you can do. You certainly can't post reviews for people. That is clearly not ethical. But if you were able to effectively get that information verbally, transcribing that into a written text, and then providing the client and then giving them the option to post it, I can't imagine that would be any issues with that whatsoever. The point is, make it easy for the consumer to share good reviews about you online. Share it via one, get it via text, and if possible, if you're struggling with it, help them out by taking it verbally, transcribe it, and then get it over to them. The point that Ryan was making, which is really important here, is that the more that you can include the keywords and the phrases that you're already trying to rank for in your local area, the more impactful these reviews will have. Also, I completely agree, Ryan. Posting or replying to reviews, good or bad, is mission critical because people will read them. If it was a bad review, if you handle it with grace, if you apologize, if you give additional context, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. That's why a 4.9 or 4.8 is more believable than a 5. All of these things are true. Okay, so Ryan, we talked about the basics, the blocking and tackling. We talked about some of the optimizations. And I'm just going to go real quick just through those optimizations again so everyone can just make sure that we're completely on the same page here. Business name, brand keyword, brand location keyword, business description. This is going to be, business categories. This is going to be using the Google My Business or GMB everywhere to find the top categories. Business description, making sure that your local keywords and services are reflected in your business description. Optimizing your products and services. And then, of course, posting. We didn't actually cover this one, Ryan. I skipped over it. Posting regular content. We'll come back to that one in a second. Photos and videos, and then reviews. So let's just backtrack for 1 second because I skipped over the slide for you, Ryan. Posting regular content. This is a big one. I'm glad that we didn't miss this one. Talk about why this one is important and why it actually helps optimize a profile.
Yeah, so I would treat your GMB posting like it was any other social media platform. So Google, like we said at the start, how many people search per day for local businesses and see a dead profile? So they've not posted in the last 6 months. They've not posted in the last 2 months. It doesn't exactly inspire confidence. So you should treat it as a content marketing tool inclusive of all of your other efforts. So your email, your blog, your Facebook, whatever. And the good thing is again, you're basically creating breadcrumbs for Google to follow. So if you're talking about a house for sale in X location, great, you're promoting relevance. You're promoting that kind of how far away am I from this brand to the user. If you're really struggling for content and you don't produce blog content as much as you potentially should, talk about your listings, talk about how you've sold X amount in this location, or if you've had 5 new listings come up in the last week, put it on your GMB, put it in your Google My Business posts, talk about it as much as you can, give the property details, the location, the address, potentially even as far as going into saying, we are located 3 miles from this listing. So Google knows, oh, actually the office is only 3 miles away or 1.5 miles away. It can associate that distance and that relevancy just like that. And the final thing is that each GMB post gives you the option to add a call to action, and you can do whatever you please with that. So you can send a link to your website. You can put a phone number on there if you want to. You can send people to a certain location in your blog, whatever you want to do. It gives you another opportunity to send leads to your website or get people to engage with you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think ultimately what you're going to see for businesses who have relied on paid advertising and marketing automation, they're going to have a very big challenge competing in this content first world that we live in. And so brands who fully commit themselves to creating valuable content on behalf of the consumers, educating, demonstrating, highlighting what it's like to buy and sell a home, making it easier for people to make better and more informed decisions, those are the brands who are going to win. I think about people like Brad McCullum with his listing videos. I think about people like Ken Pozak in Orlando, Florida, who's built a media company, who's doing hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate. I think of people who are out there trying to figure out ways to be creative about the content they create. And what Ryan's really highlighting here is that there is a new distribution channel which you can promote your content that may not drive traffic the same way that Facebook would or Instagram would or email would, but it helps you with the overall name recognition and brand recognition that ultimately helps you get that come list me call. Hey, I found you on Google. I'd like you to come list my property. So we talk about listings first, this listing first strategy, which is still the driver of growth for many businesses. We got to be optimizing the profile. All right. So Ryan, we promised that we're going to cover the basics. We promised that we're going to give some optimization tactics. And guys, in the chat, just give it up for Ryan. He's taking his time to kind of share some of these ideas with you. I hope you guys are getting value out of this. If you've learned something new, just give him a shout out in the chat for us right now. Now I want to see all this, Ryan, in action. So if we do all of these things, what actually happens?
Yeah. So this is, again, the reason why I kept this in here is because we didn't do anything too dissimilar from what we've just covered. These are the basics with some optimization sprinkled in and just a little bit of secret sauce at the end to kind of kick it into gear. So this is for a term estate agent, and it was in Blackpool, which is a reasonably large city in the UK. And all we did here, if you can take a look at the first grid where you see the red, yellows, and greens, basically the reds are you're not in the top 10. So basically non-existent in the world of Google. And then 6 weeks between the first and the second photo is look at how many different greens there are. And if you think about how many properties or potential people existing in those areas that are looking for people just like you, or your businesses just like you, that are going to engage with you. So you've got ones, you've got twos, you've got threes, all of those 11s have disappeared. And that was only 6 weeks from start to finish. Now, the time frame is dependent on how competitive your area is, but it's entirely achievable and doable.
Yeah, I think this visualization reflects the impact that doing this stuff can have for your business. Because notably, it's not just one small area. You can start to see how optimizing your profile, you can sort of land and then expand. Now, this was an estate agent in Blackpool. We did this for our client in San Diego, Jason Cassidy. I want you to talk about first, give people some context around how many people are searching for real estate agents, right? Or not looking for a listing, but how much search volume is there in downtown San Diego for real estate agents?
Well, it's in the tens of or hundreds of thousands of searches. So whether that's people looking from within the area or people looking from other cities or states to come into the area. So it's an extremely competitive market. And I can't remember off the top of my head the number of how many agents are in downtown San Diego, but it's a lot. So even being able to, the top image is quite condensed, even being able to, within 6 weeks, expand that to like a 2 mile, 1.5 mile radius, you might be looking at 2 to 3 more additional leads, or 100 more views in the map pack or the searches when people are looking for this stuff organically. So considering how competitive downtown San Diego is, and we just did the basics, we saw immediate improvements. Mm-hmm. And then we will just, like you said, land and expand.
I think what's probably most important here, and people are going to want to know, Ryan, in the chat, what tool are you using to be able to map your rankings? Because everyone's going to want to know, because they're going to want to do this for themselves afterwards.
So there are 2 tools that I would recommend. So either Local Viking or Local Falcon.
So Local Viking and Local Falcon, and they can basically put in their Google business profile /GMB and then be able to produce a report on how well they rank in their immediate area.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. This is a killer pro tip here, because you can't improve what you don't measure. And so going first and saying, let me assess how I'm ranking, not just in my immediate area, but sort of the surrounding area in which I serve. This is going to be a great starting point for you. And you can see here some of the results, Ryan. I want you to sort of speak about this. This is for Cassidy. Just speak about some of the results that we were able to get for him when we were doing this back in March.
Yeah. So again, this was just the basic optimizations, and you could see the grid had only expanded slightly, but we had, I think it was around a 150, 160% increase in listings on search and listing in maps in that 6-week period. So incredibly, incredibly powerful to have an additional 1,000 people see you in a 6-week period or time frame. And, you know, even if you converted 1% or 5% of that traffic into a lead or a call, that's a huge amount of potential revenue into your business.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So now I want to just recap here before we wrap. This is screenshot this. We will share the deck out. We will share the recording out, but I want you to screenshot this. This highlights every single thing you should be doing to optimize your Google business profile /GMB. This is the optimization checklist. And so this is going to give you that blueprint of optimizing your business name, choosing the right categories, optimizing the business description, optimizing your products and services, posting regularly to your GMB, building out keyword-rich reviews, and geotagging your photos and your videos. If you do all of these things well, and you do it consistently, and you build that foundation, now you can be able to establish yourself in the local area as that #1 choice. When you do that, the number of come list me phone calls, the number of listing opportunities, the number of people who are actually seeing your name, your face everywhere is going to increase. And if you do that really well, what happens is your brand begins to drive revenue for the business. And this is something that top listing agents know. They get phone calls just because people see them everywhere. And that is that kind of brand lift or that brand exposure that creates the sort of network effects in your local area that allows you to sort of grab that top position, that top market share, and then keep that top market share. Now, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Curaytor team here. This is a service we are going to be offering in the future. We have a big wait list internally on this, so we're not quite ready to release this to the world. But you can see here, we actually are offering this as a professional service, which includes the following: Google Business Profile Optimization, posting and content to your GMB profile, helping with the review management, the business citation, and obviously focusing on the hyperlocal lead generation, as well as some of the paid advertising strategies for you, and then giving you the reports needed to show how you're progressing. This is not available. We are not releasing this right now. We are building a wait list. We have one internally already. But if you're interested in Curaytor actually managing your GMB profile for you, we are pricing that at $4.99 per month. We will optimize and help you rank higher for GMB. But again, this is not available right now. If you guys are interested, if you're thinking about potentially adding this to your business in Q3, Q4, just drop in the chat right now, add me to the wait list. The moment this is available to the larger group, we will contact you directly to let you know exactly how this service works. So Ryan, first off, let me just say thank you for doing this. Every time that you and I talk, my friend, I learn a lot. Every time that we talk, I'm always impressed by your wealth and knowledge. You are a guy who is in the trenches, who does the work. You're a guy who's out there working with clients directly, just like Curaytor. You're a guy who has had a tremendous amount of experience. So to be able to pick your brain and be able to get your insight on this, it really means a lot. I know for the entire group who attended, we have over 500 people who registered for today's events. They're going to absolutely love this recording. We appreciate you, Ryan. And Ryan, last thing for you. I hate doing this. I really hate doing this to you, Ryan, because I am already just overwhelmed with jealousy. But where is the best place people can connect with you online? Because you're someone who I always follow on Twitter. I follow on LinkedIn. Where's a place people can stay connected to you online to stay up to date with all the latest as it relates to GMB and SEO as a category?
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, firstly, it's likewise, I love speaking with you. You always kind of give me that inspiration to keep being better in my field. So massively appreciate it. If people do want to kind of engage with me, and I'm happy to kind of answer questions when I can, Twitter being the first one. So my Twitter handle is search for Ryan. There I am. And secondly is LinkedIn. So if you search for my name, it's Ryan Darani. There isn't too many people with that last name, so hopefully it's just me. But yeah, more than happy to engage with people, more than happy to answer questions when I can. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. So I do appreciate it. And thanks to everybody in the chat who added questions or left comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right. Now that we've done your plug, I have to do a shameless plug for myself, which is first up, I appreciate you guys jumping on. We'll drop Ryan's link in there. I'm going to drop my link to my Instagram profile because I think I could still beat you on Instagram, Ryan.
100%.
Okay, good. So I'm going to forget LinkedIn and forget Twitter. I'm just going to go all in on Instagram. It's the only network that really matters. But if you guys want to stay connected to me, connected to the latest and greatest at Curaytor, I'm constantly updating ideas, scripts, strategies. We're actually dropping this new thing called Swipe and Share. It's a new template that we're going to be releasing. I'll pull it up so you guys can see this. These are visuals that you can share on social media to help educate your audience. We're going to be dropping that this week as well. So you guys are going to absolutely love that. Follow me on Instagram. I have a mission to become the most useful person to follow on Instagram. So no pictures of my kids, no pictures of where I'm traveling, what I'm eating. It's only content every time designed to help you grow your business. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. And yeah, if you want to follow Ryan on Twitter and LinkedIn, go ahead. That's completely fine. Ryan, thank you, my friend. And we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. You too.